Today in the crypto space, we see the market still kind of going sideways. Bitcoin up approximately 1.5%, hitting that $28,650 mark, give or take. And Ethereum still hovering around 1550. The altcoins seem pretty confused. It looks like a mix of green and red throughout the market. However, we see Solana and Injective doing very well. In today's video, I want to talk about the general market. I want to use Bitcoin as a leading indicator. But more importantly, I want to talk about one altcoin that has been looking really bullish. However, it got a deep retracement, and that project is called Loom. So you know what? Let's talk about the news. Let's analyze the charts and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins, looking for opportunities. Whether we go up or down, bearish or bullish, it doesn't matter. All we want to do is stay one step ahead of the market so that we can capitalize on any of the volatility. And if you appreciate that strategy, subscribe to the channel, click that bell so you don't miss out on any of my future videos, including the live streams at 7:30 Eastern, where we talk about crypto news and price action. All right, guys, if you have any projects, of course, let me know for tonight. Tonight, we're going live at 7:30. However, guys, we're going to be looking at this general market to see if we can kind of scope out any projects that we should be looking at in the immediate short term, because we're not getting much volatility. However, guys, we're seeing a bit of, a volume in some of these altcoins. Look at Solana up approximately 6%, getting another leg to the upside, guys. Overall, looking really good, but I would be getting defensive. Look at the 7-day gains, 18% to the upside, definitely in double digits. Guys, Solana right now is definitely a good performer, and we can see that, but you got to be protective right now. If you're seeing Solana very overbought on the daily, overbought on the 4-hour, come up with a plan, come up with a strategy. Make sure you trail up those stop losses and take a bit of profit. Of course, you could be super bullish on Solana, but you definitely have to anticipate that there are going to be peaks and valleys in this market, and you want to be able to ride those ebb and flows to be able to pack your bag for the bull run. Of course, always trade with your short-term spot position and leave a long-term spot intact, ready for the bull run. All right, let's continue. What else do we have here? We have Solana looking really interesting. In fact, what I'll do is I'm going to put Sol on the list for tonight's live stream. I'm going to put Sol down just so that we can take a look at Sol. And if you can see, a lot of the other altcoins are pretty much going stagnant. Not really that interesting, to be honest. As we scroll down, we have, pretty much sideways price action everywhere. Chainlink going sideways, not doing much there, but, could it be going for another leg to the upside, or are we going to break down? It looks like a 50-50 shot right now. I'm not really crazy about that setup the way it is right now. So I'm going to move on from Chainlink. Shiba Inu, making that lower low, not looking good. Making a slightly lower low, not looking good. If we come up, get a confirmation high, a lower high, not interesting whatsoever. So let's see what's going on. AVAX coming down, but got a little bit of relief in the immediate short term, but still overall, again, if you look at it, AVAX is still kind of dripping. So be careful with AVAX and Uniswap, another one that might be just getting into consolidation for a further continuation. So let's be careful here. What else do we have? Cosmos coming down. A lot of these altcoins are still rolling over. Look at ICP down approximately 4%. And as we continue going down, a lot of these altcoins, even Optimism, even House Arbitrum, also coming down. Caspa down 2% today, but nonetheless, Caspa still within that consolidation, right? So let's see what happens. In my opinion, it looks like it wants to roll over. It does look top heavy. It looks like the hang time is definitely there. So be careful here, because if Bitcoin gets a pullback in the immediate short term, you're going to expect that a lot of these altcoins will also come down. Your protocol down approximately 2.5%. And as we keep on going, you can see that, of course, we have, what is this? Crypto, Potcoin, it's up 305%, guys. But we know what I got to say about that. It's risky. What the heck is this anyway? So be careful, because there's a lot of projects out there that, run up with no fundamentals. I don't know what it is about, so I'm not going to claim that it has no fundamentals. Also, I'll retract that statement. But nonetheless, guys, do your research. 305%. Take profit. That's all I got to say about that. Render grinding to the upside ever so slightly. Be careful with that psychological number. It is at $2. Look at that ascending wedge. Be careful with that. Be careful with the fact that we've already ran up 13% from the bottom. from the last 7 days. So be very careful, and render could be looking for a little bit of a pullback in the immediate short term, where we can start looking for confirmation lows and perhaps opportunities to DCA before maybe we continue to the upside here. So we're looking for pivot points throughout the market, and render might be building enough data to suggest that maybe about 150 might be the bottom or a good level to start DCAing. So I'll be keeping an eye on render, and of course keeping you up to date whether I'm be buying in and scaling back into render. Injective running up today, guys. Man of the match, 5.4% after 16% to the upside. I would anticipate that many of us should get into a defensive mode. Okay, 7 days of running up like that looks pretty good, and if you're in some good gains, start getting defensive, start coming up with a plan at least as how you're going to protect yourself just in case it decides to pull back. Are we at resistance? Are we at a good level of resistance? And if we are and we're getting signs of divergence, be careful. I'm going to put Injective for tonight's live stream as well, and that is also a great time and place for you to make requests for any projects that you're interested in. I'm live tonight at 7:30 Eastern. The graph coming down 3%. Look at that. Not looking good. Not looking good for algo either. And XDC also, to be honest, not looking good either, but it could be looking for some support if it's oversold. Bullish divergence, a good level of horizontal support. It could be a good time to potentially DCA, but again, we don't know what's going to happen with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin could be our signal for a further continuation to the downside. This is why I cover Bitcoin every single day, just to get a sneak peek as to what is going to happen to the money flow when our biggest project, our biggest crypto actually does fluctuate. If it comes down, expect the market to come down. If it goes up, expect the market to swell up. Okay, so let's continue here. As we reach the bottom of the top 100, we can start building a bit of a consensus. You can see a lot of the coins are coming down. Rollbit still looking strong, 30% in the last 7 days, guys. Be careful if there's bearish divergence here. Actually, you know what? Putting it on the list. I'm putting on a Rollbit. We'll take a look tonight at Rollbit. But again, those two tops right here, if there's signs of bearish divergence, be careful. Be careful. 30% are great gains. Be prepared to appreciate those gains. You're only profitable if you take profit. That's the reality. If you leave them in and the market rejects and comes down, you're not being a profitable trader in that case. You're giving all your profits back to the market. Look at NEO, not looking good either. A lot of these projects are not looking good. So far, we got 3 that are going against the grain. The majority of them are still sideways, in fact, coming down to lower levels, give or take 3% more or less. And I conclude that that's the overall consensus in this market. Guys, there's a lot of opportunities coming around, guys, so we got to be patient, a bit of patience, but at the same time, don't be greedy. If there are good dips, buy in. If there are good opportunities in some altcoins, buy in. We talked about a big time a couple of days ago where it was breaking down below support. Start looking at those horizontals. Start looking at good levels of potential support to be scaling in little by little, bit by bit. Don't try to catch the bottom, because as we come down, we are going to be presented with great opportunities, okay? So you're going to have those convictions set in play, ready to go to deploy some of that capital. All right, guys, I know you're here to talk about charts. Let's begin. Let's take a look at Bitcoin, and then we'll take a look at Loom. The project for today, of course, is Loom. It's down approximately 30% for today. A deep retracement, a huge pullback, and at the end of the day, the question is, should we be scaling in? In the meantime, let's take a look at Bitcoin in a little bit more detail. We see Bitcoin getting a nice green candle to the upside with very little volume. That for me is not very, very strong indication that the market participants are actually bullish here. Okay, so be careful. I don't want to get too excited or emotional on this green candle just yet. I think that we're basically coming up to test the range highs or the previous resistance and get an actual solid rejection. Maybe this blow off top wasn't enough. Maybe the blow off top wasn't enough for the bears or the bulls to get confident that, maybe it's done. Like, let's start to take profit. And the reason being is because the wick, both the candle body and the wick, was induced by fake news. So how can we really trust the body or the wick? So maybe what we need to do is come up and actually get a confirmation to actually say, you know what, the invisible hand is suggesting that we need to roll over. So we need another rejection. Maybe that's the fact. We need another rejection, and you can see the volume is not giving it to you, not giving us much of an indication. Let's look at these momentum oscillators quickly. The RSI is definitely trying to get into overbought scenarios. Those conditions, getting overbought, suggest that Bitcoin will get that impulsive move and actually get overbought. And when it gets overbought, we're going to be looking for that bearish divergence and looking for potential indications that the bears are going to come into play now and start rolling over. Right now, that's the risk going short. The risk is that the bulls have one more impulsive move to the upside under, basically under their sleeves, and we could definitely get wrecked if we go short here. That's why I am strategically choosing not to trade Bitcoin. Okay, I'm more interested in alts. I'm more interested in DCAing. I'm more interested in keeping up with the market and taking advantage of great opportunities, and Bitcoin is not really giving it to me. All right, guys, let's move on. Let's take a look at Loom, the project for today. It's a project that, we've been kind of looking at here and there on the channel and on the Discord. It has been going sideways for a significant amount of time. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I don't know much about its fundamentals. I don't know what's value proposition. I don't know anything other than we've been getting a fat pump to the upside. Look at this massive rally to the upside. Okay, guys. So I'm happy to say that if I mentioned not to buy into green candles before, that you took my advice, and that, hopefully you were able to mitigate all risk. Look at this lightsaber in the sky, a huge wick, and that wick is obviously known as a blow off top. Okay, so be careful. Now, as you can see, we're coming down with a lot of volume as well to confirm that market participants agree with this dump. Now, I don't know why it's dumping. I have no idea, but to be honest, to get into a fresh short right now is absolute, or even a long for that matter, is absolutely dangerous, because number one, if you're getting into a short, basically you don't know if we're going to get a mean reversion play, which we'll talk about in a second. And if you're going long, you don't know if you're trying to catch a falling knife, which again is problematic because there's no level of horizontal support really just yet. In fact, I would say that there is more of a thesis that can be built to go long, to be honest, because we do have some indications. Okay, let's build our conviction. Let's start marking up this TA, see what's going on. This is a fresh chart, which I like. This is the daily time frame, and we'll kind of contract these momentum oscillators for a bit to give us a little bit more room to look at the price action. I'm going to begin by looking at volume gaps, which you guys know I like doing. It gives me a sense of direction. It gives me a sense of what I should be anticipating for support and resistance, some weakness in the charts, and it's very clear that we have a bit of weakness here given the volume profile and the price action looking left. We do have some weakness, so we gotta mark that out. Now, what I also want to mark out is that we do have a bit of a jitter of supply and demand right around here. Okay, so even though I'm anticipating a lot of weakness here, there's a bit of jitter here based on the volume profile that we could get a bit of a reaction given that there's an extra level of weakness right into here. So I'm going to double up on the red boxes and make this thicker or darker red. Okay, that's very important to address. Look at this volume gap right here. So we got price action that went straight up with not much supply and demand along the way. We also have the 200 EMA, the daily EMA creeping up here that could act as some support and some confluential support that if the price action gets there, it could act as support. So as of now, I'm interested in this area, and I'm going to start putting my arrows. What I usually do, and what I always do, is I try to keep myself accountable, not myself specifically, but my strategy accountable. This is where I'm interested to buy the dip, and I'm also interested right around here, and I would also be interested right around here, given the fact that we could get some sort of reaction both at the top and the bottom of the volume gap in this little area right here. So DCAing in 3 spots, okay, that's usually a great scenario. I like DCAing in 3 areas because you can get in here with a small bag, increase your position size, and increase it even further, and DCA down and bring your average cost down. Now let's look at the momentum for a second. MACD is clearly facing down EMAs, and histogram bars are nice and red, basically suggesting that the continuation to the downside is still there. But what's going to happen in the short term? And the only thing that I can say based on short-term moves is that we have something that's going against us, which is look how far away this purple line is away from the yellow line, which is the moving average and the EMA, right? The RSI, right? So the relative strength index right now is suggesting that, we came down very hard, but the overall average of the RSI is very far away. These 2 lines tend to want to stick together, and you can see every time they pull apart and they kind of deviate from one another, they kind of make a decision to basically hang back and get back together again. So what could happen is the momentum can kind of go stagnant for a while, go sideways, and wait for the yellow line to catch up, or the purple line can move up and kind of like meet the yellow line in the middle, type of thing. And either way, what's going to happen is we'll get price price action to basically confirm or give us an indication of what could be happening. If the momentum goes sideways, we're going to get into a chop zone right here, okay, which is very possible considering that we have a weak spot. We have the 200 daily to act as support, and we can bounce around in this weak zone, filling up the volume gap right into this area, getting support and resistance on the top of the volume gap and the bottom of the volume gap. Alternatively, we can see that the RSI purple line actually bounce up, which would give us an opportunity to DCA again, but also expect that the price action kind of gets a little bit of a dead cat bounce or some relief to the upside. Guys, these are all possibilities, very potential possibilities that we need to plan for. Now, if we move forward and we start looking at other weak spots in this chart, we can see that this is still a very weak spot right into here. And I'm going to push this over just a little bit. This is a weak spot given that there's not much volume here, straight up, straight down price action. So if we break above, let's say once again, if we break above 14 cents, 14.5 cents, guys, we can get back into a zone where there's not much supply and demand to actually act as resistance. Looking left, the straight up kind of thing, a bit of a consolidation here, but to look at the volume profile, it's pretty weak, right? So obviously there's weaker spots on the volume profile than other spots, but we got to anticipate that this is a weak spot. But look at here, this is actually weaker, so we can highlight that even more, right? If you like, you can actually make it deeper just to give you that indication. Look, this is actually weaker, but the other area is somewhat weak as well. So we can double up on these boxes to kind of give us that indication. Okay, so what am I looking at? The daily looks like it wants to come down further. I would like to see it hold support on the 200 daily at the bottom of this volume gap, and right now we're testing the top of the volume gap. Okay, so this is something to consider. Let's get into the 4 hour quick. You can see that, you know, sometimes it's viable to look at the 4 hour. Why? Because the 4 hour can get you into a short-term play to the upside. Now be careful, because the daily is still pushing down, and if you're going to go long here based on the 4 hour, you're going against the trend on the daily. So that means that you got to be very aggressive to get in and get out quickly, because the daily might push again to the downside and continue its path to the downside, basically getting into oversold conditions. It hasn't reached there yet, and it's looking to get there. Mind you, the daily is also entering the chop zone, while the 4 hour is already oversold. So that means that as the daily stays in the chop zone, we could probably get into a long position to get a nice bounce, maybe get a bit of a rejection as a dead cat bounce, and then exit that long. Guys, personally, going into a long position is quite dangerous right now. The momentum is quite strong to the downside. However, you know, if you are going to do it, at least look out for these indications. Right now, the RSI is not showing you much of a bearish divergence. We're still making lower lows on the price action and slightly lower lows on the RSI. A bullish divergence would suggest that the price action is still coming down with you want some W's, you want some structure, while the RSI is already moving up while the price action is moving down. That would give you a sign of Class A bullish divergence. There is none here yet, so getting into a fresh long based on the 4 hour is quite dangerous as well. Okay, so we need a little bit more data. The MACD is not giving us anything either. The EMAs are still facing down, and the histogram bars, although they're pink, they're still in the bearish control zone by being pink, right? We want to see a red cross, we want an EMA cross, and at least one little green histogram bar to show us that, you know what, we're attempting a bullish move to the upside. So there's a bit of work to be done also on the 4 hour to suggest that we are going to get in with some major convictions. So what does that mean, guys? That means, look, you have some choices. Are you going to go long? My opinion is the probability for that is very low to actually be successful. I would be very careful. It could happen, but the statistical probability of being a success is very low. In my opinion, what I would be sticking is with the daily and looking for this to get actually oversold and buying the dip. In fact, right now is not a bad time to DCA just a little bit, just in case the 4 hour does actually get into that bounce. Then you can take a bit of profit, and then that way when we get that pullback, you can buy in with those profits once again and scale in a little bit more, DCA in and DCA out. Guys, that's the way you do it. Here on the channel, we look for both opportunities. Either way, those opportunities are what you need to be looking for. At the end of the day, guys, you know, taking a bit of risk right now at a good level of support is not bad. And as the price comes down, you could DCA and bring it down. But I would be looking anywhere within this zone. All right, guys, I'm going to be live tonight at 7:30. Don't forget, feel free to join. If you have any projects you want me to cover, that's the greatest time and place to make those requests. And of course, if you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description below. Feel free to join the Discord, guys. The Discord is a great community, lots of good alpha trade setups, fundamentals, and all that good stuff. Take care, guys. Have a good one, and don't forget, buy the dip.